to IBD Storytelling. We are going to be reading a story, but first up, we are going to be reading the Bible, and then we're going to be doing the synopsis. And we're not going to be doing it with Kimberly, we're going to be doing it with Baby Yoda. I'm just joking, we're doing it with Kimberly. And then we're going to be reading Pilgrim's Progress. Hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss another video. Hope you guys enjoy. Here's Daddy.
Hi. So, thank you for tuning in. Now we're going to read the Bible. This is Exodus chapter 15. This is the English Standard Version. Let me begin. Then Moses and the people of Israel sang this song to the Lord, saying, I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host he cast into the sea, and his chosen officers were sunk in the Red Sea. The floods covered them. They went down into the depths like a stone. Your right hand, O Lord, glorious in power. Your right hand, O Lord, shatters the enemy. In the greatness of your majesty you overthrow your adversaries. You send out your fury, it consumes them like stubble. At the blast of your nostrils the waters piled up. The floods stood up in a heap. The deeps congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My desire shall have its fill of them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. You blew with your wind, the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. You have led in your steadfast love the people whom you have redeemed. You have guided them by your strength You have guided them by your strength to your holy abode. The peoples have heard, they tremble. Pangs have seized the inhabitants of Philistia. Now are the chiefs of Edom dismayed. Trembling seizes the leaders of Moab. All the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away. Terror and dread fall upon them because of the greatness of your arm. They are still as a stone, till your people, O Lord, pass by, till the people pass by whom you have purchased. You will bring them in and plant them on your own mountain, the place, O Lord, which you have made for your abode, the sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands have established. The Lord will reign forever and ever. For when the horses of Pharaoh were with his chariots and his horsemen went into the sea, the Lord brought back the waters of the sea upon them, but the people of Israel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea. Then Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and dancing. And Miriam sang to them, Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. Then Moses made Israel set out from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. Therefore it was named Marah. And the people grumbled against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? And he cried to the Lord, and the Lord showed them a log, and he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. There the Lord made for them a statute and a rule, and there he tested them, saying, If you will diligently listen to the voice of the Lord your God, and do that which is right in his eyes, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you that I put on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord your healer. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the water. And that is the end of chapter 15. We are coming up on these are the chapters that people remember from Exodus. After the plagues and crossing the Red Sea, and then here's a song that Moses sang about crossing the Red Sea and how all the other nations are afraid of Israel right now, not because of Israel, but because of Israel's God. And later on, we're going to have a battle with the Amalekites, and then we're going to have when God issues his law to the people and the people's reaction. So that's going to be the rest of the book of Exodus in a nutshell. And so I encourage you to keep listening, and we will continue with this story. In the meantime, we are on Pilgrim's Progress. Right now we're on chapter 14, but last time we read chapter 13, which was all about Christian, and he's going through and he meets timorous and mistrust. And of course, he doesn't trust mistrust, and mistrust is basically throws a hand grenade and it blows up. And yeah, a hand grenade. Didn't you remember that part? Here's Kimberly to say how it really happened.
So, what actually happened was, Christian, he was going up the mountain on the dangerous path, and there's a little rest stop-like area, and he sits down, and he's like, yeah, this is nice. Sleep, sleep, sleep. And he falls asleep over there. His scroll falls out when he's asleep. Except he doesn't realize that when he wakes up. He doesn't see it. So he keeps going. And he keeps going, like, I'd say about an hour and a half of walking. And he then reaches for his scroll, and he doesn't find it. So he's like, oh my gosh, I must have dropped it when I fell asleep. So he goes all the way back, and he has to go back and forth 3 times in total. He has to go over the same road. So he goes back, grabs his scroll, and it's too late to go for the rest of the day. So he has to stay somewhere on the road. He probably would have made it through if he hadn't slept. He probably still would have had to camp out even after sleeping, but yeah.
So now we're on chapter 14, which is called Porter and Discretion. So let me go ahead and get started. Now by this time he was come to the arbor again, where for a while he sat down and wept. But at last, as Christian would have it, looking sorrowfully down under the settle, there he espied his roll, the which he with trembling and haste catched up, and put it into his bosom. But who can tell how joyful this man was when he had gotten his roll again? For this roll was the assurance of his life, the acceptance at the desired heaven. Therefore he laid it up in his bosom, gave thanks to God for directing his eye to the place where it lay, and with joy and tears betook himself again to his journey. But oh, how nimbly did he go up the rest of the hill! Yet before he got up, the sun went down upon Christian, and this made him again recall the vanity of his sleeping to his remembrance. And thus he again began to condole with himself. O thou sinful sleep, how for thy sake am I like to be benighted in my journey? I must walk without the sun, darkness must cover the path of my feet, and I must hear the noise of the doleful creatures because of my sinful sleep. Now also he remembered the story that Mistrust and Timorous told him of, how they were frightened with the sight of the lions. Then said Christian to himself again, these beasts range in the night for their prey, and if they should meet with me in the dark, how How should I shift them? How should I escape being by them torn in pieces? Thus he went on his way. But while he was bewailing this unhappy miscarriage, he lifted up his eyes, and behold, there was a very stately palace before him, the name of which was Beautiful, and it stood by the highway side. So I saw in my dream that he made haste and went forward, that if possible he might get lodging there. Now before he had gone far, he entered into a very narrow passage, which was about a furlong off the porter's lodge. And looking very, very narrowly before him as he went, he espied 2 lions in the way. Now, thought he, I see the dangers that Mistrust and Timorous were driven back by. The lions were chained, but he saw not the chains. Then he was afraid, and thought also himself to go back after them, for he thought nothing but death was before him. But the porter at the lodge, whose name was Watchful, perceiving that Christian made a halt, as if he would go back, cried unto him, saying, Is thy strength so small? Fear not the lions, for they are chained, and are placed there for trial of faith where it is, and for discovery of those that have none. Keep in the midst of the path, and no hurt shall come unto thee. Then I saw that he went on, trembling for fear of the lions, but taking good heed to the directions of the porter. He heard them roar, but they did him no harm. Then he clapped his hands and went on till he came and stood before the gate where the porter was. Then said Christian to the porter, Sir, what house is this? And may I lodge here tonight? The porter answered, This house was built by the Lord of the hill, and he built it for the relief and security of pilgrims. The porter also asked whence he was, and whither he was going. Christian, I am come from the city of destruction, and I am going to Mount Zion. But because the sun is now set, I desire, if I may, to lodge here tonight. The porter, What is your name? Christian, My name is now Christian, but my name at the first was Graceless. I came of the race of Japheth, whom God will persuade to dwell in the tents of Shem. The porter, But how does it happen that you come so late? The sun is set. Christian, I had been here sooner, but that wretched man that I am, I slept in the arbor that stands on the hillside. Nay, I had notwithstanding that been here much sooner, but that in my sleep I lost my evidence, and came without it to the brow of the hill, and then feeling for it, and not finding it, I was forced with sorrow of heart to go back to the place where I slept my sleep, where I found it, and now I am come. The porter, Well, I will call out one of the virgins of this place, who will, if she likes your talk, bring you in to the rest of the family, according to the rules of the house. So Watchful and Porter rang a bell, at the sound of which came out of the door of the house a grave and beautiful damsel named Discretion, and asked why she was called. The porter answered, This man is on a journey from the city of destruction to Mount Zion, but being weary and benighted, he asked me if he might lodge here tonight. So I told him I would call for thee, who, after discourse had with him, mayest do as seemeth thee good, even according to the law of the house. Then she asked him whence he was, and whither he was going, and he told her. She asked him also how he got into the way, and he told her. Then she asked him what he had seen and met with in the way, and he told her. And at last she asked his name, so he said, It is Christian, and I have so much the more a desire to lodge here tonight, because, by what I perceive, this place was built by the Lord of the hill for the relief and security of pilgrims. So she smiled, but the water stood in her eyes, and after a little pause she said, I will call forth 2 or 3 more of the family. So she ran to the door, and called out Prudence, Piety, and Charity, who after a little more discourse with him, had him into the family, and many of them meeting him at the threshold of the house, said, Come in, thou blessed of the Lord. This house was built by the Lord of the hill on purpose to entertain such pilgrims in. Then he bowed his head and followed them into the house. So when he was come in and sat down, they gave him something to drink, and consented together that until supper was ready, some of them should have some particular discourse with Christian, for the best improvement of time, and they appointed piety, prudence, and charity to discourse with him. And thus they began. And the next chapter will tell of that discourse. It is called Piety, Prudence, and Charity, and it's slightly longer, but not too much, than the chapters we've read. It is chapter 15, and the first word is piety, who says come. All right, so that is the end of our reading tonight. Looks like JJ's got a Beyblade thing to share, so I'm going to leave it off with him, and he can bid you adieu, and happy Resurrection Day tomorrow, and God bless.
First off, I wanted to show you my Beyblade. Second off, there he is. Second off, I feel silly doing this. 3, 2, 1. Bye.